It was an unforgettable weekend in college football, but I'm here to talk about Wisconsin's massive blowout. Whatever name you could think about it, it was annihilation what they did to Purdue. I'm here with Jet Katz, who's a student at University of Wisconsin. Jet, how's it going, brother?
It's going good. Thank you for having me on.
For sure, man. I know you're a happy guy as long as many other people. Wisconsin Badgers, they won 52 to 6. They continue their dominance over Purdue. This was a feel-good victory for them, especially after what happened last week. And you could tell even the head coach after the post-game press conference, he was satisfied with the team victory. The offensive line stepped up. Everyone stepped up. This was a collective team effort. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Luke Fickle, this is a game that, excuse me, I think this is a game that saved his job. Wisconsin dug themselves into a very deep hole to start the first four games of the season. You play down to your competition, a low-level FBS team in week one against Western Michigan. Then in week two, you play down to your competition again against an FCS team in South Dakota. And then two really heartbreaking losses, one getting crushed by an SEC team in Alabama. And then next against USC, you head on the road, you go up 21 nothing at halftime, and then you end up blowing that game. And Wisconsin dug themselves into a very big hole, but it was very relieving to see them dominate a lower level team. I mean, Purdue, it's not an ideal win to look at Wisconsin and say, hey, this is a really good team. But Purdue, while they're in the bottom of the Big Ten right now, they are a Big Ten team. And I think Wisconsin did everything that they needed to do. I mean, both sides of the ball were dominating. The defense held them to two field goals on two red zone opportunities. And then the offense was clicking. I mean, we had been talking so long about Phil Longo implementing this air raid offense. And I think with Braden Locke, he's a backup quarterback, but he still came in and threw for three touchdowns, and he had a really nice game. So I think all around, it was just a game that you needed to dominate. This kind of saved the season, but I thought it was just all around great win from Wisconsin.
Do you think that Wisconsin should have been 4-1 right now in the season?
I mean, it's tough to say because, I mean, I keep thinking about that Alabama game when starting quarterback Tyler Van Dyke went down on the first drive, and you just got to think that offense was clicking to start the game. How different is it if he doesn't get hurt? Do they make it a close game? But especially that loss against USC, you go up 21 nothing and it looks like everything's clicking. Of course, USC in that game, they made a lot of mistakes that the Badgers capitalized on. But I think that if you don't give up 28 points in the second half and you don't fail to score anything, I think that's a whole different ball game. And I think Wisconsin would be 4-1. But nevertheless, I think I'm just very happy about this win, but I don't know if they should necessarily be 4-1. I think we kind of have an idea of where Wisconsin's at. It took a while for them to kind of pick it up at the start of the season, and now we're starting to see them kind of get into that groove and dominate their inferior opponents. But I mean, they have a tough one against Rutgers this coming weekend. Rutgers is a very good team. They're 4-1 right now, but I think Wisconsin is at the record they need to be at. I think that while 3-2 isn't great, it's kind of where I expected Wisconsin to be at.
And that's going to be an interesting match with Rutgers. They're a good team, even though they just finished coming off a very disappointing loss to Nebraska. But that should be a fun matchup to watch. Who do you think should be the X factor or someone to keep an eye on in Wisconsin to step up against the Rutgers?
Well, I think there are multiple players that you kind of need to have an eye on, but I mean, the biggest thing for this Wisconsin team all season has been stopping the run game. Their front seven has started off the season very lackluster, and I think against Purdue, they had the opportunity to show their skill set. Even with James Thompson Jr., he's likely out for the season. He's been out. He's been that catalyst on the front seven, but I think it really the secondary has been doing their job all season, I think, and the problem has just been stopping that run game. So I think that whole front seven is just you got to look at that because we know the Wisconsin offense by now. For years, Wisconsin has been RBU. They've been they've had a heavy emphasis on the run game. And with Braden Locken, he's a backup. I don't expect a whole lot from him. So you have to look towards the defense now and say, who are your biggest weaknesses on defense? And for the first 4 games of the season, it had been that defensive line. So you really have to look at that entire line. I think another defensive player to note would be Hunter Wooler, the safety. Him and Ricardo Hallman have done a great job of keeping that secondary in check. And then even true freshman Xavier Lucas has looked pretty good in the opportunities that he's gotten. He hasn't gotten a whole lot, but against Purdue, and then he had a very nice looking interception against Western Michigan. I think just that entire defense, but specifically the defensive line, stopping that run game, especially against Rutgers, who their running back is very, very good. He's been one of the best running backs in the country to start the season. So, yeah, just look at that whole front seven and specifically that defensive line.
Final question. What's your prediction for this game between Rutgers and Wisconsin?
Well, I think with the way that the momentum is shifting, Wisconsin got a very big win, and Rutgers came off of a disappointing loss. Nebraska's a good team, and they have a very good defense, but Rutgers only scored 7 points, and I think this is going to be a close one. I don't want to sound biased here, but I do have my Badgers taking the win. I would say it's going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be a low scoring game. I got Wisconsin coming out 21-14. I think it's going to be, just a game of touchdowns, and it's going to be a little low scoring, but I got the Badgers taking this one in New Jersey.